Nest at 10 Main Street. I don't know if many of you have been there or not, but I hope you will go there and check out her place. It is a apothecary and a mercantile store, and it was featured on Chronicle. I don't know if any of you saw it, but I think you were on twice. So, and she did a very good interview. And also, there's now a little restaurant there, a little tea room, and she's going to tell us about the menu and how she got into all this. Please give a warm welcome to Kinsey Rose.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me tonight. It's my pleasure to come and speak to you about our business that's located, I'll try to speak up, located in downtown. Are we better now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Located in the beautiful downtown Hudson. First, I just want to do a land acknowledgement. Our store is located on the traditional land of the Nipmuc people. And I will also talk about a few of native plants that you can find in this area that were used by the Nipmuc people then and now. So to start, Crose Nest Apothecary downtown, we're in the space 1012 Main Street, the old Oddfellows building. I'm looking forward to all of y'all filling me in on the history of that, but I am told and have researched the building. It's got such a great energy that it is where the first pharmacy and convenience store for Hudson was located, which feels really special to now have an apothecary and mercantile in that space. It feels just like we came home. I started my business in Lowell, Mass. I'm not from this area, I'm actually from the Southwest, but I moved here 11 years ago. Started studying herbalism with some local schools, and then started a small apothecary almost 9 years ago. I came to Hudson in 2018 to open a brick and mortar that was more full-time, and I was located first right where Rail Trail is, in the space where they're now opening their takeout space. I was there for 3 years, and then after the pandemic I moved into the space that I'm in now, and it's just a beautiful space, and I am really happy to be there. Crow's Nest started as just a way for me to continue my herbal studies. I did 1 year of studies that were motivated by my own health journeys. I found that traditional or allopathic medicine wasn't touching on all of my needs and was at times in my life inaccessible for a multitude of reasons, whether it was just access to good doctors or access to health insurance. Traditional natural medicine has been a part of my family's practice for most of my life, and so studying it kind of was the next natural step. Once I finished my first year of studies, I kind of had this epiphany as I was getting very enthusiastic and talking about it to anyone who would hear me, that most folk kind of feel like herbalism or the practice of herbalism is only for a certain type of person, a person who's like a health nut or leans more hippie, and I'm not saying that those people don't practice herbalism, but I really wanted to find a way to create an environment that was accessible to all people, all walks of life, wherever you're coming from, and kind of made it more of an everyday ritual no matter what type of person you were. And Crow's Nest, the idea of it was to have this interactive apothecary where folks can really come in, work with the plants, blend their own teas, and kind of take some of the mystery out of herbalism. So we started as a very small shop, 100 square feet in a historic downtown Lowell building. At the time it was called Mill Number 5. It actually recently closed. But we just had 12 plants to choose from, and it was kind of how I continued my studies. Every time I'd study a plant on my own, I'd add it to the wall so that the community had access to it. Folks would just come in, they'd sit down, we'd talk about the plants, look them up in different books and resources that I had, and then blend tea. Very simple concept. Now we have over 100 plants. Each one I've studied individually. My team studies on their own as well. And the concept still stands that you can come in, you can work with the herbs individually, you can blend your own teas. Is that this feedback? Yes, it is. Sorry about that. And we...
You could move it up a little, like, yeah.
that work better? And we also have a lot of formulas that we can just direct you to. So folks like Sally have a custom blend that they've been using for years and come in over and over for this custom blend. But if that's not your style, if you want something a little bit quicker, we're happy to direct you. We have about 70 different blends that you can be directed to that are
You even get a tea bag.
and you can get just a tea bag, yes. However you'd like it. We go from giant bags that'll last you for a few months to down to just steep me a cup right now. So the apothecary has grown from a little herb wall where you can get your bulk herbs or blended tea. Now we carry over 100 different handmade artisans, so we carry a lot of different gifts, all with kind of a earthy botanical lean. We also carry house plants, garden plants, and as of 2 years ago, we opened the Evergreen Room. Evergreen Room is our tea and cocktail lounge. We have full tea service as far as like coming in, getting a pot of tea or a cup of tea. We also craft amazing organic handcrafted cocktails, so we do have a liquor license. All of our cocktails, we're not a traditional bar. Our cocktails are very much inspired by the apothecary, and we infuse all of our spirits with herbs from the apothecary. We make all of our syrups in-house from organic ingredients, and our menu is seasonal. It's small plates and graze boards, and we seasonally source from local farms like Small Farm. We work with Julian's for a lot of our garnish and flowers. So we really try to keep it local when local is available. Some of our just founding values is sustainability, and that really for us looks like we use all recycled or compostable packaging. We have compost service for our restaurant, so about 90% of our disposable goods and all of our scraps from cooking actually go into the compost. Our menu is designed to be incredibly sustainable. We do pickles and jams and spreads, all things that are a little bit more about preserving the plant and using the whole plant. And I'll pass around a menu. So in our menu, this is our current food menu, and then the front few pages are our spirits, and the back few pages are our specialty tea beverages. I'm going to pass that around.
Thank you.
But the whole menu is inspired by herbal medicine, the apothecary, and the idea of bringing in community and sustainability. So what we want you to feel like when you come in is this indulgent experience. We don't really design our dishes to be, they're not healthy, but I think when people think of herbalism, they're thinking of like granola and some bland yogurt or something, and that's not really exactly what we're doing here. It's meant to be a little bit more indulgent, and we're trying to kind of design an experience through how plants interact with our bodies. So like our jams are infused with herbs like lemon balm and chamomile and lavender to kind of soothe the nervous system and uplift the mood. Our cocktails have herbs like damiana and ginger and chamomile, things that kind of help bring out like the more social side. But we really try to thoughtfully curate all of our ingredients to give you kind of a different side of herbalism, and want you to feel like you've just stopped by your friend's house and you're kind of getting a peek into everything they're crafting at the moment. So the whole idea of our store is about connecting people to plant medicine, to the magic of plants, to kind of everyday rituals that enrich our lives, but that are very accessible. I think a lot of times the wellness industry is asking you to buy this like very rare ingredient and it's $200 for one drop. Our purpose and our mission is to show you how accessible this wellness can be, and that it isn't really a commodity that has to be bought, but it's in your backyard. So while we are a shop and we would love to have your business, we do a lot of things to kind of connect folks to just the living land around them. Some of those things are herbal workshops. We've done plant walks in and around Hudson, so we actually just use the rail trail. There's over 50 identifiable medicinal species of plants just along that tiny strip that runs along the backside of Main Street. So it's just a really lush, exciting area to explore, and as we grow our little team, we hope to connect you all more. So I did bring a couple teas to pass around and talk about, as well as a couple plants, if you guys are interested, and then we'll probably open it up to some questions. So to start, I actually brought 2 native plants. This sumac is store-bought, but I did try to harvest them for us. They're just not quite in berry form yet. Is anybody familiar with the sumac plant? A little, yeah. So sometimes folks think of poison sumac. That's a marsh-growing plant that is low and has a white berry. There's another sumac that is native to this area, and I call it the Dr. Seuss tree. When I moved here, it really stood out to me, and I find it just adorable, I guess is the best way for me to describe my feelings about it. But it's more of a bush, and it grows these cones that can vary from about 4 inches to up to like 8 to 10 inches, and they're just little tiny red fuzzy berries. So you may have seen it, or maybe now you'll notice it. It's usually around 5 to 8 feet tall, and it loves depleted soil. So you'll see it growing next to highways. I mean, it's just resilient. It is native to this area, and indigenous folks in this area would use it for respiratory and cold support. It's really high in vitamin C. You'll probably smell that when I pass it around. We also use it as you can use it as a topical wash, so you can use it as like a poultice if you steep the berry. And it's delicious. It tastes very citrusy. We call it nature's lemonade. I'll just pass around the jar. This is cultivated sumac. It's used a lot in Middle Eastern food, to be honest, which is interesting because it grows in other places in the world, but it is really prevalent in this area. It's incredibly hard to harvest, I'll tell you that. I've tried refining my own sumac powder, but when you find the cones, the little berries actually are mostly seed, and that seed is so hard it can actually chip a tooth. So you have to somehow get this fine film of fuzz off the seed, and I have not found a efficient way of doing that myself. But somewhere they have one, because we have this whole jar of sumac.
So you don't do anything with the foliage, just the seed?
We don't eat the leaves. It's just the fuzz on the outside of the seed. So we don't eat the seed either. We eat such a small part of this plant, but it is delicious. And so we use this in our pickling brines. We use it. It's often found when we do deviled eggs. We do deviled eggs through spring through summer, and it will be a garnish on that. We use it in our spice blends for our herbed goat cheese. We use it in a number of our different teas to add flavor, depth, and vitamin C. It's just a really delicious herb. Versatile, I would say. Easy to use. On the other side of the spectrum is sometimes called old man's beard. This is also is called usnea. So this is an herb. U-S-N-E-A, usnea. This is a lichen. It normally grows really, really high in the trees, so sometimes you'll find it on the ground. This is a pretty dried specimen of it. When you find it fresh, it has a slight elasticity to it, and this is a little harder to use, but I find it really fascinating, and my pockets are always filled with it. So it's not as extractable in hot water. It is incredible, what we'd call an adaptogen, which is something that helps to bring balance to multiple systems of the body, primarily the immune system for this guy. However, like I said, the extraction process isn't just a straightforward hot water steep. It involves heating it in alcohol and combustible. Heat and alcohol is pretty combustible, so you have to be careful. So I just fill my pockets with it and enjoy what a weirdo it is, and I just always love finding it in the forest.
So that's native to here?
It is, yeah.
Can you find that along the rail trail?
You could.
Maybe.
I normally find usnea in small amounts, so I'll see a little handful of it that has fallen from the trees. This occasionally I'll find something like this where a whole stick has fallen, but it likes to grow tall. So you're not gonna, and it grows, it's a lichen, so it has like a symbiotic relationship with the tree, so you're not gonna find it just growing on the ground. It has to be on, I think it primarily grows on birch, but don't quote me on that. So those are two plants that I find really interesting and both that I found in this area. Some other plants that you might see in and around your own yards would be yarrow, which is often used in gardening as a decorative plant, but there is a native variety. The just beautiful white variety is native to this area and has a multitude of uses, topically and internally. Plantain was actually brought here from Europe. It's also known as white man's foot. They say everywhere white men walked, plantain would pop up, but it's a highly medicinal plant that can be used topically and internally and is often regarded as a weed. And then people come and want to buy it from the apothecary. I'm like, did you just pull up a bunch of that from your yard? Probably. Mullein is another one of those. I think mullein came from Greece but is naturalized now. Something you might see pop up and is probably might be talked about more is the knotweed, which is now considered naturalized. It is from Japan, it is not from here. It's popping up everywhere right now. Kind of looks like asparagus when it first pops up and is actually edible like asparagus is. So if you cut down those spring shoots, you can saute them and they taste like asparagus. Knotweed is really interesting plant because it is kind of being deemed naturalized, which just means it's so prevalent and has kind of made its way into the ecosystem. Something fun about knotweed is its root system is able to clean soil. So you'll find knotweed growing in really environmentally impacted areas, and what the root system is doing is actually cleansing the soil of different toxins. So while it is invasive to some of the other native species, it also now has found its purpose. In herbal medicine, it's utilized as a support for tick-borne illnesses, primarily Lyme disease. And what's interesting about that is where Lyme first outbroke in Lyme, Connecticut, is where Japanese knotweed was actually first documented as popping up as well. And they kind of spread in the same way. So as Lyme spread, knotweed would spread, and now it's one of our main herbal remedies. Yes.
So if we called you and you want to come to our backyard, you could come get some knotweed.
I'd be happy to.
Plenty.
I'm frequently sneaking into people's backyards. So if you see me, don't be afraid. I'm usually harvesting mushrooms. Yeah, I would say it is incredibly hard to get rid of. But if you have it, you might just try eating it or harvesting it. And you can also infuse it. So really the spring shoots are the best time because it gets, as you probably know, pretty woody as it gets taller and it's not as delicious. You also want to be mindful of the soil that it's growing in. So I wouldn't necessarily harvest knotweed from like an incredibly polluted waterway or something. I'd be like, you're doing your job, I'm gonna leave you to do your job. But if I had like a nice backyard that I was like, oh, this, doesn't have vehicle waste or that kind of thing happening around it, then I would say, eat it. It's great, it's good for you.
My goats love it.
Your goats love it, yeah, or get goats, which is,
Yeah.
I wish I had knotweed, so I had an argument for goats in my house. Maybe I'll just transplant some knotweed. Yeah, goats do love it, so that's another way to. It is pretty hard to eradicate, but I would say that there are ways to. I think at this point, now that we are starting to talk about it as more of a naturalized plant, we have to learn the best ways to live alongside it. So yeah, plantain, yarrow. What's another? Any other plants that you guys have questions about that you might see growing around you?
I just wanted to ask about the plantain and yarrow. What do you recommend that for? Is there a specific thing?
So yarrow is wonderful internally to move the blood. It's like in some ways it's described as a blood cleansing, but that's really because it like moves the blood. So it's good for internal infection. It's also good for breaking a fever. So often we'll use yarrow when a fever gets really high, but you're not sweating, so you feel like, you know, you get that 104 temperature, you're not breaking that sweat. Yarrow helps to break a fever. It's really gentle in doing that for children too, so sometimes it can be, I think modern medicine will tell you to lower your fever, but that disrupts the purpose of the fever. So what herbal medicine does is it supports the fever and then helps the fever do its job, and then flush out. So that's, yarrow is a great support in that way, is it's gonna help that fever break, and so your body can sweat it out. And that allows the fever to attack the problem rather than just, you know, dampening the fever, which then means your illness will likely last longer. So elder is like another plant that we work with, Sambucus nigra, so elderflower, elderberry, that grows pretty prevalently in this area. Again, usually around roadsides. You can cultivate it pretty easily because it's native to this area. You can harvest the flowers, great again to support a fever. Not going to lower a fever, probably going to raise it for a second, but then helps flush it out. And we use the elderberry to boost immunity. So not safe for folks who have autoimmune that is sensitive to immune boosters, but safe for most folk. You would know that about yourself likely.
When you talk about these different herbs, how would somebody take it? Is it in a pill form? Is it a tea form? How does one take it?
It's a great question. So every plant is different. We'll start with that. Your taste buds are a huge part of the plant communicating with your body, the different systems of your body. Also, most of the digestive tract is important in absorbing some of those actions. And again, if we're just in pill form, we might bypass some of that absorption. I would say also a lot of the constituents aren't going to be super bioavailable just in their whole form, and you probably need a bigger dose than what's going to fit in a small pill. So some sort of extract is probably best if you're not going to just, there's some plants like plantain you can, and violet is just beautifully rampant right now. If you have any of the native violet in your yard, eat that. It's so good for you. It's a great lymph mover, which is really important after winter. We get so stagnant. So eating a whole plant is beneficial for a lot of our like leafier greens and things that are safe to eat. Water extracts are really a wonderful way to kind of pull out the nutrients. Minerals from plants drop out after about 6 hours, so just soaking plants in water kind of helps get some of those constituents out and more bioavailable. And then there's things like usnea that have their active constituent is so locked in that sometimes a more aggressive extraction is necessary, like an alcohol extract or a heat extract of some sort. But every plant is different, and that's something we can really help you with at Crow's Nest. So if you're interested in working with a plant, you're not sure how, that's where I come in and I'm like, I can tell you all of it. I can tell you where to find it in your yard, I can tell you how to prepare it, and I can prepare it for you here if you'd like. So I want folks to feel a little bit, have more agency over that for themselves, and not be, I think we've gained a lot of fear around our intuition with plants, and not all plants are safe, so I think that's fair, but I truly believe everyone is an herbalist, and that it just is something, it's an intuition that needs to be unlocked and practiced, so it's in there. So yarrow is a tea, or it can also be used as a poultice for infection. And then plantain is both, it is a mucilagen, so it's really soothing for mucous membranes, so that's great for digestion, great for raw sinuses, any mucus lining that needs soothing. You can use plantain internally for that. Most mucilagens work better as a cold extract, but you can do a hot extract with plantain.
So when you talk about plantain, are we talking about?
We're not talking about the
fruit?
banana.
Okay. I'm
So-
visualizing that when you're talking.
Yeah, I think that's where most people, that's somehow the more known plantain. So we're not talking about the banana. Plantain is actually, I'm sure you have it along your sidewalks or your yard. It's, there's two leaf shapes. There's one that is called lanceolate. I think it's like a thinner, longer leaf shape, and then there's a broadleaf plantain as well. But if you look up, I'm sorry I didn't bring any slides today, I'm not super techy. But if you look up the plantain, plantago is the Latin for it, you can see that it's very common. It's kind of everywhere, and it's also regarded as nature's Band-Aid. So if you got like a bee sting or a cut, you can put plantain on it, helps stop the bleeding, helps with bee stings, it kind of helps pull out the stinger. It's really an interesting plant.
Yep.
Has a lot of uses.
I just pulled it up, oh my gosh.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And again, harvesting guidelines, we always want to be mindful of where we're harvesting from.
It's in my, it's everywhere.
So if you have it in your yard and you don't use pesticides, and then I would say use it. I know it sometimes feels pesky, and I think that I grew up thinking that about all the plants in my yard. Now I've done something called rewilding. So my neighbor feeds the birds, and the birds plant the seeds in my yard, so to speak. And my poor husband, I've like over the past 9 years just marked different areas with white flags where he can't mow, and our yard is like all native now. But our family has grown to appreciate all the different things. My kids know like which ones are edible and which ones aren't, and it can be really fun. Like right now we're harvesting the violet and throwing it onto our salad. Like my kids won't eat that, but they know that we can. And I moved here from the desert, so I'm actually really enamored with how much food is all around, and water. Really impressed, y'all. You guys got it all. But I think that it really inspired me to dive in and to become more engaged with the plant life around me. In the desert, things all have sharp fangs and thorns, and there's not enough to go around. And so there just is this abundance that is pretty incredible in this area. And it's really interesting how we can regard something as pesky and a weed until we understand its benefit to us. But I think then that needs to be an energy exchange, and how can we then support the plants in turn?
You mentioned that, your kids know which things in the yard they can eat and which they can't. Do you grow things that are not good for you, or?
I let things grow
Okay.
more than I grow things. I actually am not good at growing. I don't have a green thumb. I make the terrible dad joke that I'm an herbalist because I work best with dead plants. But I do let things grow, and there are some things in our yard that are native and supposed to be there and that I wouldn't eat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So something's maybe for looks and other things, or,
Yeah.
and just because you don't want to kill a plant.
And there's an ecosystem happening. So if I took out that plant, then I might not get this certain insect that pollinates this plant. Like they're kind of they're all working together. And I don't know better than them. So I'm going to let them do the work.
Anything, can you do anything with poison ivy?
Yes.
That I couldn't tell you. I can't look at that plant without catching it. I'm so allergic. It finds me. I've always been highly allergic to plants, which is hilarious. I grew up on a cattle ranch outside of Steamboat Springs in Colorado, and I was just covered in rashes my whole childhood. But I love to forage, but poison ivy, I can't even talk about it. I'll probably break out. There is a plant, however, called jewelweed that often grows near or around poison ivy that is the antidote to poison ivy. So if you get poison ivy and you can find jewelweed, it's a beautiful plant. It's got really kind of airy leaves, and it's got this.
Is it like 5 fingers?
That's
It's
a
a
great.
Virginia creeper that takes over everything around it.
It's not like Virginia creeper. It's taller,
Oh.
and it's got like almost like a snapdragon-like flower that's orange. But it's pretty the flower is hidden, so. If a breeze hits some jewelweed, and if you put the leaf in water, it looks like it is metallic. It's very cool. So if you find poison ivy, look for a taller plant, and I wish I could remember the leaf shape right now. I can't. But if the wind hits it just right, you'll see like this bright orange little pop of color. Oh, thank you.
I don't know if you want to
Yeah, we can.
why don't you take a picture of it and then pass it around? You know how to do
Yeah.
it and how
I
to
do.
screenshot it, right?
I think.
Screenshot yourself.
Look at me. No, it's okay. Yeah. So, thank you for pulling that up. Jewelweed, it's a beautiful plant. And it's really easy to utilize. So it's water soluble. So you can really just make a wash, like steep it like a tea and then use that as a topical wash. Some folks infuse it into soaps. You can make salves out of it. I think it works best as a fresh plant. So when I can find it, and when I inevitably get poison ivy from just being alive, breathing air, I just make a wash out of it, and then I'll like use the plant, we call it the mark, that's like the plant material after it's been steeped. I'll use that topically, wrap it around my leg, and then I'll use the wash. You know, usually I'll make like a quart size. I'll use it for a couple of days, then I'll make more. It works best fresh. So I have purchased. I think you can also infuse it into witch hazel. So witch hazel is a great extract, or a menstruum to extract some plants if you're going to use them topically. You could utilize plantain, jewelweed, and yarrow, and then if you would be kind of soothing the skin and the systems of the body in multiple ways. So many things around this. Yes.
What about mint?
Mint, yeah. So
I found out last year, I'm a bird watcher, last year I was out in the field and I found like 2 acres of mint. And I had the best mojito.
yeah. Well, see, you already know what to do with mint. I don't even educate you.
And I had the best mojito I've had, and it was a great thing.
Yeah.
Mint.
Only once?
It was a pitcher.
I mean, I wasn't invited. But beyond that, I would say mint is incredibly versatile. Spearmint is kind of the original mint. I think native to the Middle East. There's lots. Mountain mint is something that grows around here that's the native version of what is more commonly like peppermint or spearmint plant. Mint is incredibly cooling for the systems of the body, so really good if we're feeling overheated. Great for digestion unless you have an overproduction of acid, so which you'll know right away if mint is triggering for you. But it's a really nice digestive aid. I love it for all kinds of topical skin preparation. So if we're thinking of it being cooling, anytime we have red, heated skin, we can use it topically, and the plant water will calm the skin in that way as well. So yes.
Out of the 100 plants that you have at your store, what's the most commonly purchased one?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say actually mint, or a relative to mint, which is lemon balm. Lemon balm is in the mint family. There's hundreds of plants in the mint family. You know mint by it has a square stem and bilateral leaves, so that's what qualifies as a mint plant. So a lot of plants in that category, a lot of culinary plants are in that category, and those are probably the most commonly purchased. I think A, because they're so diverse in their application, and B, because people are most familiar with them. So it's a friendly plant to approach. It's, spearmint, peppermint, chamomile is another big one. Fresh chamomile just hits different. I don't know. The stuff that you get in the bag is usually not even really just the flower. So if you can, occasionally we work with a farm in Vermont that grows only medicinal plants. And when we get fresh chamomile from them, it's like the whole room smells. Chamomile smells like caramel when it's fresh, so it just is beautiful. But I would say the support folks are looking for the most are nervous system and digestion. And luckily they're very related. So a lot of the plants that we work with for them actually work for both.
Do you have hibiscus?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. I ran into somebody in the grocery store one time looking for hibiscus tea, and her doctor had told her that she needed to use it, and she couldn't find it. And
I think a lot of
I've
times
seen
it's
it.
sold as Jamaica because it is more of a traditional South American or Mexican plant, like as an herbal. So it can be hard to find on its own. I would say again, usually if a doctor's recommending it, it's probably for heart support,
blood pressure.
and blood pressure, yeah. And the fresher the better again, and the dose is a little higher too.
Bigelow makes a hibiscus tea, they call it zinger. It's not
Mm-hmm.
raspberry mat.
Yeah, yeah,
It's good for you, lowering your blood pressure.
yeah. I can make you that
I
tea too.
didn't know that though. Because that you could have found. I was trying to help this lady find it, I didn't know it was the same thing. Okay.
Yes.
all right.
So again, the dosage in a traditional grocery store tea serving is going to be a teaspoon or less per bag. When the dosage for a medicinal herbal application is going to be about a tablespoon. So if you're buying tea bags from the grocery store and you're using it as medicinal herbal support, I would say you're going to probably have to brew at least 4 to 6 of those at a time. That's why, so we sell all of our herbs as bulk loose leaf. We don't pre-bag anything, partly because the dosing can be different depending on the application, and also partly because you can see the quality and the freshness of the herb. So what we do in shop is we blend your blend, or you choose one of our pre-blends, and then we include a little cotton tea bag with it. That's reusable. We obviously have other tea steeping tools, and everyone has their personal preference. But the dosing is so different when we're using it as a health support versus just enjoying a cup of tea, if that makes sense.
What would you recommend for inflammation? Some of us have bad knees.
So inflammation is so tricky. It's interesting because I feel like we all have it. But it has so many different root causes and can manifest in so many different areas of the body. So a general blanket anti-inflammatory, chamomile, mint, turmeric, all of those. But those aren't getting specific. To get a specific herb in place, likely we're going to have to do some investigative work. We're going to have to understand why the inflammation is happening. Is it from an injury? Is it from an allergy? Is it from stress? And then we support that system, and then over time it will support the inflammation. So anti-inflammatory is one of those terms that as I've studied more about herbalism, it's less about the inflammation and more about the root cause.
Is cinnamon good for that?
It can be, yeah. Blood sugar is one of the issues, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go to this side because I feel like I'm neglecting y'all just because I'm prone to, and then I'll make my way to everyone. Don't
There's more
worry.
people over there.
Yes, sir.
How regulated is your industry, and what licensing requirements are you required as an individual?
It's not regulated at all. So there aren't any licensing requirements. We have to be very careful with how we talk about things. We are not doctors. We do not diagnose, cure, or prescribe. So the way that I've structured my business to make it the most safe is that I have the knowledge. I do talks like this sometimes, but in shop you'll never hear me say, take this plant for your inflammation and it will go away. I'm just not going to say that. None of my staff is going to say that either. We have lots of resources in store to check for. My biggest concern when folks are coming in and exploring herbal support are contraindications. So I carry mostly what we would call food plants, and this is herbs that have low contraindications and are widely used and kind of regarded as a food resource. So we might be using them as a different application. That doesn't mean no one's going to have any interaction. I have plants that are so high in vitamin K that if you're on a blood thinner, they can put you in the hospital real fast. And that's scary. It's a scary position to be in. We try to be incredibly informed, and we have resources where we can look up the contraindications, is what it's called, when there's a known interaction with a drug, a medical condition, or other plants. And they're little monographs. We can look it up for you if you're unsure. We ask the right questions in the moment. Do you know if you have any allergies? Are you on any medications? You don't have to share them with us, but if you are, then we might have lean a different way, or ensure that you're double checking all plants that you're working with. And otherwise, again, we're working with plants for the most part that are pretty familiar and pretty common in tea application. Tea is a very gentle intro to working with the plant. So really low risk, not no risk, but low risk. And then if somebody is wanting to further that relationship and go to a tincture strength or work with the plant in a different extract form, then we would maybe ask that they consult with their doctor. A pharmacist is actually going to be better at this, to be honest. They just know more. One of the schools I attended actually taught the Boston pharmacy students all about plant medicine. So pharmacist is probably the best place if you have concerns. Or a clinical herbalist, which I'm not. I'm a community herbalist. So there are ways, certificates and the checks and balances are within the herbal community. There's no like government regulation in this country. Other countries, Germany has plant medicine at every pharmacy, but they have to follow very specific formulas. So, whereas like I don't have to follow a formula, I can cater it to your constitution, your likes and dislikes, or your different, conditions. There's benefits and downfalls to having an unregulated industry. Yes.
What about the trees? Birch trees, aspen trees, hemlock.
Mhm.
Do you deal with much with that?
We work with birch bark. I love birch bark. Birch bark is and it's traditionally used as an analgesic, so it has some pain relief. White willow is the original aspirin, what aspirin was derived from, and it actually can work gentler and better over time if you take it consistently.
The Sierra Nevada Club is lobbying to change the state tree
Oh, interesting.
because the state tree now is the Dutch elm.
Oh, okay.
And of course, they want to get it changed, and they're pushing for the white birch.
I love that. I would support that just based on how great white birch is.
but it has a lot of
It's native.
has a plethora of uses.
It does, yes, yeah. Wide uses is abundant, not at risk, easy. So we use the bark, not the leaf of that plant, and it's delicious.
What is it? Black birch too.
Black birch is like what cream soda is made from.
Yeah,
That's how that tastes.
Aspen.
Aspen. I grew up in Colorado. Love the aspens.
But the different trees is what
Yeah,
have.
trees are a wonderful source, and if you just think of the network and the contribution to the ecosystems of the land, then you can think like that they must be able to offer so much more.
Culturally too, the Indians and the natives used it.
Yeah,
Before.
birch has been used since people existed, and it's
Have you done any work with the Hudson Community Garden?
I have, when I first moved to Hudson, we've done some talks with them. I haven't, again, no green thumb here, but now that we have the cafe up and running more, we're thinking of doing some plots there to grow some of our own garnish. So that's something in the future.
Business opportunity.
Yeah.
Premium cocktail, you grow it and then drink it.
Yes, exactly, yes. Yeah, interested in and that and support them from our little corner all the time. Okay, I'm coming back over here, yes.
Well, I know that seaweed is farmed, especially kelp.
Mm-hmm.
Do you work with it?
I work with seaweed sometimes, and I wish it's just. I would say that it's something I could probably work with more, but having grown up in the mountains, it just doesn't occur to me as much, to be honest. But the medicinal properties, the just the nutrient opportunities in seaweed are huge, and it's delicious. So we have a couple different spice blends that we use in store that will use some of the different seaweeds, and there's some great farms, but also like wild crafters out there that sustainably gathered seaweed. It's another one of those things that's a little bit like, how do we know that we're getting something that's clean? Unfortunately, our oceans are not as clean anymore, so it can be difficult to find good sources. So as much as we want those nutrients, we don't want some of the pollutants that are being found more commonly in some of the wild crafted seaweed. But if you can incorporate seaweed, there are some conditions that you can't have seaweed. I think it's hyperthyroidism, but don't quote me on that. But so you do have to be careful with it. It's very high in a lot of nutrients that can trigger some conditions, but otherwise throw it into everything. Yeah, seaweed is definitely a part of herbal remedies. Yeah, regarded as such.
Last question. How did you come up with the name of Crow's Nest?
That's a great question. So my mom came up with it. My last name is Rosine, and actually, so let me start from the beginning. Before I opened Crow's Nest, and for the first year of having Crow's Nest, I worked for a nonprofit called the Nature Connection. It's out of Concord, and it's a program that does nature and animal therapy programs for at-risk youth and folks with disabilities of the elderly, and I was a program coordinator. And so what we would do is take in nature programs and work with therapeutic animals. One of the animals that I was so lucky to work with was a North American black crow. Her name was Crow, and she was lovely. She was neurologically blind, had been hit as a young crow, and in order to not be euthanized was deemed a therapy animal and an educational animal. So when I was designing my business and trying to think of names and stuff, my mom had this dream about Crow and bringing all these like shiny objects together, which is very much how I live my life. And she came up with the spelling, the alternate spelling of crow's nest, which spells my last name. So Crosenest just spells Rosine in the middle of it, I guess. And I was kind of like, oh, Mom, that's kind of cheesy, whatever. We'll use it as like a working title, and then it stuck. And I do really appreciate Crow has since passed away. She lived a long, beautiful life in Acton. And our logo was based on a photo of her that I have with her. So it feels very sentimental at this point. Yeah. You guys have some great questions. Yes, sir.
Since you make botanical soda,
Yes.
do you make soda for the wood table in Concord?
I do not. They make a lot of their own things.
Well, I have a soda there that was made in Hudson,
Oh,
so I don't know, I didn't figure out who made it.
oh, that's really interesting.
It was like a ginger ale, but it said it was made in Hudson.
Made in Hudson. I can't think of who else would be working on a project like that, but I'll have to find out. I love the head chef and the owner of Woodhill is so incredible. She's an herbalist in her own right. I would say she does a lot of her own farming and stuff, but inspirational. Great questions, y'all. Can I pass around some teas for you to smell, and then I'll just pass around a little tray, and if you want to take a little bag of tea home, I would love for you to have a treat tonight. So I brought, our business card is in here too. I brought 3 varieties. This one is Heart and Nerve. This is a blend of herbs. We think about nervous support in 3 ways. So when folks come in and they talk to me, they're like, okay, I have anxiety or I feel anxious. We ask the question, do you feel it mostly in your head, your chest, or your stomach? And there's actually different herbs that are indicated for each of those zones. Some of us don't really know where we're feeling it. And others are like, oh, so specifically racing thoughts, or oh, so specifically like tight chestedness, or, I get butterflies in my stomach. So Heart and Nerve is actually more of a heart focus, which I feel like everyone could use right now. So it has hibiscus, rose, hawthorn, and linden. Linden is a plant native to Europe, and it is just beautiful and gentle. One of my herbal mentors called it a hug and a mug. Who doesn't want that? Rose I really like to think of as a protective plant. I think often it's regarded as like floral and flimsy, but it has thorns. So it's incredibly protective. Hawthorn is a beautiful tree native to North America, also has thorns. I also, just the smell of it reminds me of like stepping into a floral shop. And then hibiscus for heart support as well. The other one I have is After Dinner Mint. This is a blend of chamomile, mints, fennel, and licorice root. So cooling, nice and soothing for digestion, especially good if you kind of get bloated and hot after eating. And this can be consumed before or after a meal. And then the last one I brought a caffeinated black tea blend. This is our nutty chai, so it has a nice, totally forgetting the nuttiness in it. It's a nutty chai. That's all. Chai spices, black tea base, and a nut. Don't drink it if you're allergic to nuts, because I don't know. So for the herbal blends, if you'd like to take a scoop of that home, it's going to be this larger scoop, because I was talking about earlier that it's a little bit higher of a dosage to get kind of all the medicinal properties, so we're going to use a tablespoon there. If you'd like to take some caffeinated tea home, just this 1 teaspoon scoop. And I'll pass this around and you can help yourself to as much as you would like. And then I can take a few questions if we have any more. You guys are great ones. This here first. We can set it here. Good, help each other. So we're open Wednesday through Sunday. Some of the events and activities we have, at least once a month we have live music from a local musician. We're expanding our music program to have more nights and Sundays of that. We do herbal workshops, we invite artists in to do workshops, we have drag bingo. We're having a Mother's Day brunch Saturday and Sunday that you can get reservations for. And next month we're starting a night called Spill the Tea. This is a opportunity to come and just complain. Very excited. We just wanted to hold space for whatever ails you or whatever juicy tidbit you have. So I'm excited to see what that committee looks like. I'm a little nervous and very excited. So if you want some entertainment, please come. Or if you have something to talk about. Spill the Tea will be once a month. And yeah, you can get on our newsletter just by going to crosenest.com and signing up there.